In a world captivated by progress and dominated by innovation, one unexpected moment sent ripples across nations and headlines blazing through every major outlet. Cameras flashed, commentators stumbled for words, and even the most composed analysts paused in disbelief. It wasn't a scandal, nor a technological breakthrough. It was a handshake, or rather, the refusal of one. Pope Leo XIV, the first American pope in the history of the Catholic Church, had just declined the outstretched hand of Elon Musk, the world's most daring tech mogul, during their first ever meeting inside the sacred halls of the Vatican. Yet what followed silenced even the harshest critics and unveiled something far deeper than conflict. It revealed the meeting of two worlds, not to clash, but to elevate the human spirit in a way no one anticipated. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. And now let's begin. It was early morning in Rome, and within the cool stone walls of the Vatican, Pope Leo XIV knelt in solitary prayer beneath the iridescent glow of ancient stained glass. The silence around him was sacred, unmarred by the outside world's urgency. Just 5 days into his papacy, the weight of the position did not rest lightly on his shoulders. Unlike his predecessors, Leo XIV was not born into privilege nor groomed by elite clergy. His life had been one of service, decades spent in the poorest barrios of Peru, wearing the same worn cassock through mission after mission, always with his hands open to those in need. And now, surrounded by the gilded echoes of centuries of power, he remained clothed in humility. The moment was interrupted by a knock, then a nervous voice. "Your Holiness," said a young attendant, "Elon Musk has requested an audience. He's already on his way." The Pope opened his eyes slowly, unshaken. "Without prior diplomatic arrangements?" "Yes, Holy Father. He wishes to personally congratulate you and to discuss the spiritual implications of artificial intelligence." There was a pause. Then the Pope stood. The stillness of his posture hardened into something firmer, quiet, yet commanding. "Make the preparations," he said. As the attendant turned, the Pope added, "When Mr. Musk arrives, there will be protocols I insist upon following." "Is there something particular?" The Pope turned, his eyes like carved glass. "The world sees this as a meeting between a tech giant and a spiritual leader. But it is more. Mr. Musk must understand that. If this content blesses you and you'd like to support our mission, you can buy me a coffee or give a super thanks. Every contribution helps us create more content to inspire and uplift others." Far above the clouds, inside a sleek private jet slicing through the sky toward Rome, Elon Musk reclined in his seat, scrolling through an article on the new pope. A former missionary, a man of simplicity. Interesting. His assistant fidgeted nearby, fretting about formalities and cultural expectations. Musk waved her off. "The first American pope deserves recognition from American innovation. Besides," he smiled slightly, "when I ever worried about traditional protocol?" Back on the ground, news broke like a thunderclap. CNN aired an alert. Elon Musk heading to the Vatican. No prior diplomatic arrangements. Highly irregular. Vatican corridors buzzed with disapproval. A cardinal stormed into the papal residence, red-faced and indignant. "This is absurd. A man who builds rockets and electric cars cannot dictate his way into the Holy See like he's launching an app." But the Pope had already agreed to the meeting. "Why?" the cardinal demanded. The Pope's secretary answered quietly. "Perhaps His Holiness sees what others don't." And perhaps he did. In the papal study, Pope Leo XIV stood with Cardinal Dominguez examining headlines. Clash of Titans. Faith meets futurism. The battle for humanity's soul. The cardinal warned, "Your backgrounds couldn't be more different. He's a billionaire futurist. You lived among beggars." The Pope's eyes gleamed. "We're both American, and we both believe in transformation. That's enough for now." But he has mocked religion publicly. "I'm counting on that," Leo said, with a smile just sharp enough to cut silence. Today, he'll learn what no machine can teach. Outside the gates, Musk's sleek Tesla pulled into view, a symbol of precision and progress. Swiss guards snapped to attention. An aide approached and bowed deeply. "Mr. Musk, welcome. His Holiness requests that you honor traditional protocols." Musk replied, "I know how to show respect." Inside, reporters buzzed like insects around history. Camera shutters clicked like ticking clocks. Then the doors opened, and Musk stepped inside the ornate hall. At the far end sat Pope Leo XIV, still, silent, severe. As Musk strode forward, hand extended in a gesture of genuine goodwill, the Pope remained unmoved. The hand hung in the air. The Pope made no move. The room gasped. A full 3 seconds of agony passed. Then Musk slowly lowered his hand, his eyes flickering with confusion. Silence gripped the chamber. A Vatican official moved to speak, but the Pope raised a single finger, commanding stillness. And then, the unexpected happened. Pope Leo XIV rose, not to offer his hand, but to walk past the cameras to a small wooden table. Upon it sat a humble basin of water and a white towel. "Mr. Musk," he said clearly, "before we speak as visionaries, I ask we begin in the tradition of service." Musk looked puzzled. Service. The Pope continued, "In the Gospel of John, Christ washed the feet of his disciples. It was the highest act of humility. Today, I invite you not into tradition or politics, but into something eternal." Whispers rushed through the room like a storm. Even Musk's team looked unsure. But Musk, the disruptor of industries, did not retreat. He stepped forward, nodding. "Then let us begin." And so, before the eyes of the world, the most powerful tech leader and the most powerful spiritual leader knelt before each other and washed hands. Not to cleanse, but to communicate. Cameras caught the glint of water, the motion of cloth on skin, the reverence in 2 pairs of eyes. The message was unmistakable. Power means nothing without humility. Alone at last in a private chamber, Musk and the Pope sat without pretense. "When you didn't shake my hand," Musk began, "I thought it was rejection." "It was," said the Pope gently, "a rejection of performance. You deserved more than a photo op. You deserved a message." Musk leaned in. "You had this planned." The Pope smiled. "I suspected we'd need more than words." Unbeknownst to them, a nearby microphone remained live. The world was listening. "Innovation without compassion," said Musk, "is just destruction with branding. And faith without action," the Pope replied, "is empty ritual." In the press hall, screens flickered. The narrative changed. No longer a snub, a symbol, something unprecedented. Back before the cameras, Pope Leo XIV addressed the crowd. "I did not refuse a handshake to dismiss Mr. Musk. I withheld it to create something more meaningful, a reminder that true leadership begins with humility." Musk added, "I've been told I worship technology. But today, I remembered that every circuit, every code must still serve human beings. And that service cannot be programmed. It must be lived." One by one, journalists lowered their pens. They were witnessing a new kind of encounter, not between opponents, but between visionaries. A reporter asked, "Your Holiness, are you endorsing Musk's ventures?" "No," the Pope replied. "I am endorsing truth, dignity, and humility. Any innovator who embraces these deserves our prayers." Later, inside the Vatican chapel, the Pope handed Musk a small wooden cross from Jerusalem. "A reminder," he said, "that your brilliance should always bow to the dignity of others." Musk held the gift like a sacred token. "I'll keep this close to my work." As his car prepared to leave, his assistant said, "I thought today would be a disaster." Musk gazed out at the Vatican skyline. Sometimes the greatest messages come when we're forced to listen differently. Inside the papal residence, Cardinal Dominguez whispered, "Your Holiness, that was bold." The Pope smiled. "Christ never asked us to preserve protocol. He asked us to transform lives." And so, as the footage spread across every corner of the internet, the world saw more than a rejection. They saw a rebirth of meaning. A reminder that in a world obsessed with moving forward, it is sometimes the stillness, the humility, the refusal to do what is expected, that leads to true transformation. And if you've watched till the end, I invite you to reflect on what this encounter teaches us, not about religion or innovation, but about being human. Whether you're building rockets or building hope, the greatest legacy you leave behind will not be your power, but how you serve. Thank you for being part of this story. God bless you. And may every act of innovation serve something far greater than itself. May it serve love, truth, and the dignity of the human soul. As the sun dipped lower over the horizon, casting golden streaks across St. Peter's Square, the footage of Pope Leo XIV and Elon Musk washing each other's hands went viral. Social media exploded. Hashtags like hashtags faith and innovation, hashtags Pope and Musk, and hashtags humility before power trended globally. Commentators from both secular and spiritual spheres tried to interpret the moment. Some mocked it, others praised it, but no one ignored it. The image of one of the world's most influential tech pioneers kneeling beside the leader of 1 billion Catholics shook the public imagination. It defied cynicism. It demanded reflection. At Tesla headquarters in California, engineers gathered around a large screen watching the footage in silence. One of them, a young woman in robotics, whispered, "He's never done anything like that before." Another nodded, "Neither has the Vatican." Meanwhile, in seminaries around the world, theology students paused their readings to examine what had just happened. Professors debated its implications. Was it a gesture of spiritual diplomacy or a theological statement? One scholar wrote, "This moment may become the new icon of the modern age, a redefinition of what sacred and secular mean when they walk hand in hand." In the Pope's private quarters that evening, he stood by a window overlooking the Eternal City. Cardinal Dominguez entered quietly, holding a thick envelope. "The world is writing about you, Holy Father," he said. "Most are unsure what to call this moment." The Pope turned, smiling faintly. "Then we've done something worthwhile." Cardinal Dominguez chuckled. "Some are calling it a media stunt." "The gospel was often mistaken for spectacle," the Pope replied, "but the truth will reveal itself over time." That truth was already rippling across unexpected places. In a podcast studio in San Francisco, two atheist hosts debated the scene. "Look, I don't believe in religion, but that was powerful," one admitted. "Maybe it's not about belief, but the values behind the belief," the other said. "Humility, service, that's universal." Back in Texas, a small church aired the footage before Sunday service. The pastor, a man in his 60s, spoke with emotion. "We live in a time where people worship devices and dismiss the divine. But today, we saw what happens when power kneels, not because it's weak, but because it's wise." Elon Musk, back aboard his jet, sat quietly staring at the olive wood cross the Pope had given him. His assistant glanced at him nervously. "Sir, are you all right?" He looked up slowly. "Better than all right. That wasn't a meeting. It was a message. For me, for the world, and maybe for what's next." He reached for a notebook, something he rarely used. "We spend so much time building things. Rockets, algorithms, factories. But today I realized we haven't spent enough time building meaning." In the Vatican press office, statements were carefully worded. "No, the Pope is not endorsing SpaceX or Neuralink," one official clarified. "He is affirming the value of dialogue, especially with those shaping humanity's future." A journalist asked, "Would the Pope consider further meetings with other tech leaders?" "He would," the official answered, "as long as they come with open hands, not clenched fists." Over the next few days, articles and editorials tried to distill what had happened. The Atlantic called it the day faith reclaimed the stage. The Wall Street Journal said, "The Pope just redefined the relationship between morality and innovation." And Time magazine featured the now famous image of Musk and the Pope beside the water basin with the headline, "The New Covenant." But the impact was not just in words or images. In homes around the world, families sat together and watched the clip, not because they were told to, but because something about it felt different. It felt real. A young boy in Manila told his father, "I want to be like that man who helped the Pope." "Which one?" the father asked. "Both of them," the boy replied. At MIT, a symposium was hastily arranged, Technology and Theology, a new dialogue. Students asked, if innovation must serve humanity, what role should faith play in shaping our future? Professors, usually cautious with religious topics, agreed. The conversation was overdue. And then something even more unexpected happened. Elon Musk announced a new initiative called Servant Code, a global platform inviting engineers, designers, and ethicists to collaborate on technologies rooted in human dignity, tools to serve the elderly, the disabled, the poor, the voiceless. This isn't about charity, Musk tweeted. It's about what tech should have been doing all along. At the Vatican, the Pope watched the announcement on a modest screen in his study. He turned to Cardinal Dominguez. See? He understood. Dominguez smiled, perhaps more than anyone expected. Weeks later, during the Pope's address at the World Council on Human Dignity in Geneva, he referenced the encounter. When I refused a handshake, it was not rejection, it was reorientation. We must turn from spectacle to substance, from ego to empathy, from power to purpose. We must wash hands, not just shake them. Applause thundered. Back in the United States, Musk stood in a quiet conference room, watching the address on a monitor. A simple crucifix had been placed on the shelf behind him. Reporters noticed it. When asked, he said only, "A gift." A reminder. Then, almost quietly, other tech leaders began reaching out to the Vatican, not for validation, but for dialogue. The CEO of a major AI company asked to meet with the Pope, not to pitch a product, but to discuss the moral framework of artificial consciousness. The Pope accepted. Thus began a new chapter, one not defined by clashes of titans, but by cooperation between worlds previously thought incompatible. A new alliance not between church and industry, but between truth and innovation. One that asked not, how can we control the future? But rather, how can we serve it? In schools and seminaries, in tech hubs and sanctuaries, the conversation widened. People questioned not just what they were building, but why. The handshake that never happened became a global metaphor for restraint, for respect, for resetting expectations in a time that desperately needed meaning. And when historians look back on this moment, they may not remember every word that was spoken, but they will remember the silence, the hesitation, the gesture that redefined what it means to lead, to create, to believe. Because in the end, the greatest transformations don't begin in boardrooms or basilicas. They begin at a basin, with 2 hands, and water, and the willingness to serve. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs hope. Comment below what this moment means to you. And remember, innovation without humility is just noise. But innovation with purpose, that's how we change the world. Thank you for watching. God bless you. And may we all build a future that begins with faith, breeds compassion, and serves humanity with every tool we create. If this content blesses you and you'd like to support our mission, you can buy me a coffee or give a super thanks. Every contribution helps us create more content to inspire and uplift others. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on my future videos.